Good evening and welcome to another edition of Wealth Creation through Industrialization. I am Hadiza Olaoshibiko. Tonight's episode of the program will focus on the African Business Summit and Business Association Conference, which recently took place at the ECOWAS Commission Conference Center, Abuja. The conference, with the theme Enabling Private Sector-Led Growth Through Enhanced Engagement, Financing and Business Opportunities, was organized by the African Business Roundtable, ABR, headed by Alhaji Bamanga Tukur. Here are highlights of the conference as well as the awards dinner, where the Bank of Industry carted away 2 trophies for the bank's concerted support for micro, small and medium enterprises in the country. Happy viewing. The African Business Summit and Business Association Conference started with an opening ceremony which had in attendance various stakeholders in the African business sector. Delivering his welcome address, the president of African Business Roundtable, Alhaji Bamanga Tukur, said the summit is targeted at African business leaders to foster business growth and development in the continent.
The Business Summit targets 2 constituencies: our business leaders who make the key investment decision and greatly influence government. The second being the business association, who have critical role to play in developing a level playing field that makes the market economy work for all. It's for us to develop these synergies. Market is a place where a willing buyer and a willing seller come together, and the price being the difference. Fair competition, fair trade is what will make our economy grow, but you need the infrastructure to support that. That there is power is essential in trying to put our investment right and make it profitable. Partnership. The profile of the strategic partnership, such as ABR, ECOWAS Commission, African Development Bank, Federal Minister of Power, NEXIM, Bank of Industry, etc., is very essential. There's no longer individual effort harvesting better return. So partnership is very important.
According to the advisor to President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan on NEPAD, the undoing of Africa's economy over the years has been the lack of appreciation of critical role of the various stakeholders from both the public and private sectors. She said this conference will attempt to tackle some of these issues.
This conference marks a defining moment in our long and complex journey to enhance private sector-led growth in the socio-economic development of our country, Nigeria, and Africa in general. The essence of this summit is to explore areas of common interest and fashion out possible areas of collaboration. This is very timely, as the enormous development challenges confronting Africa today can only be addressed through collaboration and partnership, which this platform can provide. NEPAD Nigeria is therefore ready to partner with organizations that are ready to advance Africa's common interests, and Nigeria in particular. Bearing in mind the strategic position of infrastructure in the development of Africa, NEPAD Nigeria hopes to work more closely with key stakeholders in all sectors to facilitate the linking and harvesting of gains of the regional infrastructure projects.
The representative of the European Union ambassador and head of delegation to ECOWAS and Nigeria, commended the effort of some African leaders, especially Nigeria, on the power sector reforms.
We recognize that various countries in Africa have initiated reforms in the energy sector. In this context, the recent ongoing and successful reforms in Nigeria's energy sector are a good pointer of better things to come. These reform processes need to be continued and encouraged, with the aim to increasingly engage the private sector, continued African leadership in the process of setting priorities and providing an institutional and legal framework conducive to private sector investments, as well as promoting good governance and transparent procurement, which is essential.
In his paper titled Strategic Framework for Actualizing Power Regulatory Activities, Minister of Power, Professor Chinedu Nebo, outlined the essentials of post-privatization era in the Nigerian power sector.
We are in essentially a post-privatization era, and the essential elements of this phase is the provision of an enabling environment for the key partners to be able to operationalize their activities. Government is standing by to make sure that all that is needed by the nascent power sector that is driven by the private industry are done. And that is why we have a very substantially strong regulator, the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission. And that is why we have also set up enabling legal and financial frameworks to ensure that this very newborn baby is nursed to maturity, where Nigerians will be able to have sufficient power supply.
He also highlighted some of the other plans of the federal government in actualizing the project, 24 hours power for all in Nigeria.
We want to do more in hydros. That was why on the 28th of May last year, Mr. President flagged off Zungeru hydropower project, which will give Nigeria another 700 megawatts of power by hydro means. Also very soon, hopefully, Mr. President will flag off the Mambila hydropower project that will also add 3,050 megawatts of power to our national grid. So we want a good, robust energy mix that will give us energy security and not place us at the beck and call and the mercy of only one source of provision.
While collaborating the minister's presentations on the ongoing reforms in the power sector, the chairman, Presidential Task Force on Power, Engineer Bex Dangogo Jack, dwelt at length on the steps being taken by his committee.
As a team, we work towards removing the little levels of inefficiencies on assets that we already have, and we're able to just double capacity. And since then, I might also put down for record that the total amount of available generation capacity has doubled from when we started the reform to now. The design of the roadmap is such that the transitional electricity market is the lowest threshold for the liberalization that has been planned for the electricity sector. After that, we're going to have to go into the medium-term electricity market. Each of these thresholds have to be announced by the Honorable Minister of Power based on feedback from the industry as it matures from one threshold of liberalization to the next. But the ultimate will be what we call the long-term or fully liberalized electricity market, which is what is obtaining in most other developed jurisdictions, where you don't have to have wires, transformers, cables, or generating power stations to be in the electricity business. You can just be selling electricity to a community. They know you for your integrity, but you go back end and you purchase electricity from different players in the market. We are not there yet. We may get there even sooner than most people project because of the underlying strong fundamentals of our market, but government is there to ensure we move from one point of confidence to the next without stampeding us through the reform process.
The former African Development Bank president and founder African Business Roundtable, Dr. Babakar Ndiaye, expressed delight on the growth of ABR under the leadership of Alhaji Bamanga Tukur.
I am delighted to see the African Business Roundtable still pulling its weight as an important economic stakeholder in the African continent. Looking down memory lane, I cannot but thank God for enabling me to establish this institution, the African Business Roundtable, when I was president of the African Development Bank. If Alhaji Bamanda Tukur had not taken over the leadership of African Business Roundtable, we would have not been here today. He himself absolutely, not only he took this as a commitment, I don't know, he has some weakness for me. He said, my brother, I will not let you down because if this institution dies, it will not be good. You have done something, I have to support it. He's supporting with his resources, but not only financial resources, going everywhere to expand the message, to give the business people in Africa and elsewhere to know that we are here as instrument of growth, real instrument of growth for Africa business, for Africa development.
He also commended the federal government of Nigeria on the power sector reforms.
You give this to the private sector. You show a way to the private sector to, as they've been able to syndicate $5 billion for Dangote, for the refinery. It's possible. It's possible. Then for the public-private independent power producer, that the Nigerians who are industrialists, who are creative in mind for do business with their banking sector, who can syndicate not only in Nigeria but internationally in Africa, it's possible that they will play a good and fast role in making your plant work. I believe in that. Please, for the rest of what energy we have, we can be advocate to champion this through Africa. It's possible. And we need you to do it quickly, not in 2020, but between now and 2020. That's it. Thank you.
There were also various plenary sessions on power, as well as other parallel sessions such as delivering SME finance to the base of the pyramid entrepreneurs. This session was chaired by the Deputy Governor, Central Bank of Nigeria, Dr. Kingsley Mohalu. His recommendation was that Africans should adopt the oligarchy and entrepreneurial capitalism.
For many African countries, including Nigeria, the best model is to combine the oligarchic capitalism with the entrepreneurial capitalism. That is the small-scale business, the SME model. Why? Because we see that in most industrialized countries, despite the existence of large conglomerates, it is small business that actually drives most of the economy. This is a model that suits us very well in Africa and in African countries because our traditional model of economic exchange was capitalist. Capitalism is not something that has been introduced to Africans or free markets. Africans had free markets. It was actually the intervention of colonialism that interrupted, and some people now went socialist while some others went free enterprise. So the capitalist model fits very much with the entrepreneurial capitalist model fits very much with our system and our societies, especially because women play a very large role in our economic activities traditionally.
In his own presentation, the acting managing director of the Bank of Industry, Mr. Waheed Olagunju, highlighted the various steps being taken by BOI to meet the financial and technical needs of small and medium business in Nigeria.
In Nigeria, we have come up with various schemes aimed at meeting the needs of SMEs. At the Bank of Industry, we entered into agreements with some state governments. In fact, we wrote to all the state governors and the FCT to say, look, let us partner in meeting the financial needs of small businesses in your environment. So we've established microfinance, MSME development funds, right? That's micro, small, and medium enterprise development funds with about 18 state governments across the Federation. And under this scheme, we match what the state governments bring to the table. For example, in Gombe, we started with 500 million naira from the Gombe state government, matched with 500 million naira by the Bank of Industry. So we're talking about a billion naira fund with the Gombe state government. And we're supposed to lend to beneficiaries in Gombe state alone. We've replicated this in 17 other states.
He also shared how the bank facilitated capacity building for entrepreneurs across the country.
In those partnership programs we have with the state governments, we start off by conducting capacity building programs for current and potential SMEs in those states. And we do this in collaboration with some of our domestic and foreign development partners. For example, the U.S. Department of Commerce, they partner with us in providing experts from the U.S. who come to participate as resource persons at some of these boot camps that we organize for small businesses. We also do this in collaboration with the Enterprise Development Center of the Lagos Business School, which is also, of course, under the Pan-Atlantic University based in Lagos. And we do this all over the country with such agencies, that can add value, that can bring value to such capacity building programs. At the end of such capacity building sessions, we form them into cooperatives of about, say, 10 in a group. So we get them registered, and we now have them to guarantee each other. And then we also tell them to bring external guarantors, at least 2. And those external guarantors, we require them to bring statements of their net worth, just to ensure that we meet minimally the statutory requirements, so that in case anything goes wrong, we can always have people to fall back to. We've recorded varying degrees of success in most states.
He also advised on how to step up action in delivering financial value chain for SMEs.
To be able to address the financial needs of SMEs, we need a fully developed financial value chain, starting from the bottom, like I explained, the venture capitalists, the angel investors, and then again, the deposit money banks, being able to build their capacities to ensure that the SMEs are able to meet the requirements of deposit money banks and the development finance institution and microfinance institutions. So by way of recommendation, we believe that in this country, governments still have a lot of role to play in meeting the needs of SMEs. One, we are recommending the establishment of industrial parks at least in each of the senatorial districts in the country. Where we have industrial parks, this is an area designated by the state government or a local government, fenced, provided with security, infrastructure, power, water, and some sewage and infrastructure. So when the entrepreneurs are there, they don't need to produce CFOs to access credit. They don't need governor's consent. And it's easier for the financial institution to manage them when they are in an enclosure. Because we also know that under some other agreements in the past, under NDE, where you even buy equipment for small business owners, they end up selling the equipment and use the money to meet their immediate needs. But where they operate in an enclosure, called industrial parks or business zones, then it's easier to monitor them. And then you have synergy. They learn from each other, they share knowledge, they share experience. And when they're under the same roof, those who are to provide business support services are able to reach them from time to time. And you could also have volunteers, retired people who can go there in those localities to mentor them. So when you have industrial parks, there are a lot of advantages associated with them.
At the end of the brainstorming sessions, there was an award and gala night where various organizations were cited for their contributions to the development of SMEs in Nigeria and Africa as a whole.
The Bank of Industry valued members of the NDR right from the year 2006. They've supported in every program. They have been prompt with their annual dues. And not only that, they have actually engaged in training over 500 people in Plateau State, Nigeria. They have been involved with micro and small enterprises growth program, and in the area of industrialization, we have referred some of our SMEs to them in the area of microcredit.
Giving the vote of thanks at the end of the program, the representative of the President of Africa Development Bank expressed the bank's appreciation to the organizers of the event.
This event by the African Business Roundtable is not only appropriate but timely in the sense that it aligns with the call of the President of the African Development Bank Group, Dr. Donald Kaberuka, who believes in the capacity of Africans to drive trade, investment flows, and sustainable development across the continent. I would particularly like to recognize and pay tribute to Dr. Babacar Ndiaye, the former president of the African Development Bank, who remains a good friend of the institution, for his vision and his determination to engage business and business leaders through the creation of the Africa Business Roundtable in 1990. I can assure you that the current president of the African Development Bank, Dr. Donald Kaberuka, and all of us remain committed to this initiative. President Bamanga Tuku, president of the African Business Roundtable, we will continue to support this initiative. It is our conviction that through this roundtable, we can increase and deepen dialogue with business and business leaders across the continent.
Welcome back. That was how the African Business Summit and Business Association Conference was rounded off in Abuja. You heard from the presentations made by the various drivers of Africa's and Nigeria's economy on the efforts being made to strengthen small and medium enterprises in Africa. In subsequent editions of the program, we shall bring you progress reports on the implementation of the recommendations made at the conference. It's on this note that we'll draw the curtains on tonight's episode of Wealth Creation through Industrialization. I am Hadiza Olaoship. Good evening and have an enterprising week.